Some people don't know this story. When I was 17, that the power went out at my house at like 10 p.m. at night, and my sister was home from college, and we both knew is because we hadn't paid the bill. Now, we got the power back on quickly, and none of it was ever discussed, but it was one of those really terrifying moments because you mentioned
Right.
boom or bust. I think sometimes wrestlers do boom or bust to themselves. Like, I'm almost now regretting that I went in and bought this bag, and because it's not about the money and the nice things. You like them, and there may be a representation of, oh, I was here in my life.
Right.
But really, the thing that satiates you and fills you up the most isn't something that money can buy. It's, you know, the person you spend your life with, and then, of course, the job you spend your life with, which is you've chosen professional wrestling,
Right.
which is the number one currency for us, which is a very bizarre addiction, but
Yes.
you could have worse. Where do you think, because you mentioned your work ethic, where do you think it emanates from, your mother or your father?
Both.
Yeah?
Because my dad, you know, when people a lot, and I loved writing about my dad. I dedicate the book to my dad. Like he's a very big character in the book.
Yeah.
And both of them though, because my mom taught me to not take shit from anyone.
Yeah.
She was the main person that told me to always stand up for myself and never ever let anyone walk all over you.
Yeah.
She's taught me the most about perseverance, but my dad,
Yeah.
when my dad was 18 years old, he was the #1 shot putter in the United States.
Nice.
And he was ranked number 5 in the world. So he was like NIL before
Yeah.
there was NIL.
Oh, yeah.
And then my dad played professional football. My dad started playing football when he was 11 years old.
Yeah.
And so my dad actually played 3 professional sports. He played football, he was a world-class
Right.
shot putter,
Yeah.
and then he, of course, came to WWE. So my dad was very, very disciplined. Growing up, and we explore this quite a bit in the book, my dad was gone for like 300 days a year.
Yeah.
In his heyday. So there was a lot of times that I didn't like always see my dad. And when he'd come home, it was just this whirlwind of like excitement where like I knew he had gone on a journey because he brought back, you know, a toiletry kit from the Kyo Plaza from Tokyo, you know what I mean? Or like he would always bring these little trinkets back from all over the world. And that would
Yeah.
kind of give me a glimpse into my dad living a much bigger life than all of us
Yeah.
were living, because he would just, you know, they were back in the heyday of the Heart Foundation. They were always traveling around, but there was lots of highs and lows and highs and lows and highs and lows a lot. And we talk about that in the book in great detail, but my dad had a very strong work ethic. He liked working hard. He liked training hard. My dad was one of the strongest guys in the NFL. Like
Yeah.
in the book, let me pull it up real quick.
I got a question about your dad and the
Yes.
shot put while we're at it, and this is because we're surrounded by history, and there are historians in this room with us. Who do you think would have a better shot put, your dad or Kerry Von Erich?
My dad.
Yeah?
My dad's record has not been broken in the state of California.
I love this. All right.
I'm
all right.
competitive when
Yeah,
it comes
no,
to my dad.
I know. I mean,
Can I just read you real quick?
Yeah.
So I have in the book, I have my dad's resume in the book. And I put it in the book because this is the resume that he presented my grandfather when he was trying to get into Stampede Wrestling.
Yeah.
So my dad, he went to UCLA from 1973 through 1977. Shot put in 1975, he was ranked number 5 in the world. Number 1 in the USA. Professional football, professional wrestling. He started professional wrestling 1978. His bench press, these are the records that he got these records in one day. 570-pound bench.
Nice. No shirt either, probably.
No
bench
shirt, probably
yeah.
fanny pack and spandex.
Yeah.
Squat was 689.
Yeah.
Power clean was 405. Incline bench 485. Power snatch 300. And could run a 40-yard dash in 4.7 seconds. He was...
It's a monster.
And by the way, he's a 300-pound guy.
Monster, guys.
Yeah, and 1.5 mile run in 11 minutes and 50 seconds. And this was all recorded, and like, he was just a beast.
That's why he's the animal.
He was so, my grandfather, Stu Hart, when my grandfather met my dad, he was just like, he couldn't believe it. He was like, this guy like is just everything that a wrestling promoter, he sees him, he's charismatic, he's big, he's jacked, he's, you know, and my grandfather loved athletes. Like he was big on like, I can mold them, I can make them like everything.
Well, to the point about Stu loving athletes and to him being such a real athlete, your dad's one of those names that if you hear and you hear about the locker room or you hear about the camaraderie, there's other different athletes that have checked this box where there's just a general respect, and not just a respect for what they did and their career and their tenure. There was a respect the first day they walked in the locker room. A lot of amateur wrestlers have that same respect. Yeah, we can teach them about pro wrestling and things of that nature, but your dad was legit.
Legit.
So when you find someone who's legit, you can't young boy someone who's that legit. You can teach them a little something here and there, but again, legit. And it's really amazing that that's part of the resume to being a performer and a storyteller, is look at all this legit stuff. Because it comes in incredibly valuable in terms of one of the things that Cena, I always look at Cena's career and I try to steal as much as I can. And one of the things that he did really well that I am trying to improve on myself is feats of strength. Feats of strength. He'd have this unbelievable, because he truly was, Hard Knocks. He's training with Rob. That's where that stuff actually comes in handy. Be able to do something that someone sitting in the seat can't do and gets excited about, invigorated about. Anvil being one of those. I ask you about the work ethic because my work ethic comes from my mother. And I don't want to pat myself on the back for my work ethic, but I do think that probably my biggest strength in the history of my time in pro wrestling is my work ethic, not talent. Hey, I'll be there. I don't get any of it from my dad. My dad, I don't know if he had a work ethic. He might have. He worked always, but my mom
is a workhorse.
I mean, I lost my first job at Einstein's Bagels because I'm a teenager, and you lose jobs and you're irresponsible and you're a teenager.
Right.
And it's the only time, God bless Shelley Rubio, but she called me a lazy piece of shit. And she never talked to me that way. I've never been talked to since that way from her, because I realized that's something that matters to her, is my son working.
Right.
He
working hard.
He can't be my son if he's gonna not show up on time.
Yeah.
And I never, from her, man, that was her whole thing. She went back to be a nurse when we were in high school, and it really wasn't for the money, or I don't know. But yeah, the work ethic comes from her. I didn't get it from Dream.
And your mom is such a strong woman. Like she just has that. Like she's little.
She's ferocious.
She's little, but it kind of reminds me of my mom. My mom. I wrote about
dynamite.
Just little 5'2", little red hen. But when my dad, was going through some hard times and lost his job, my mom, she went to school, she went to art college she was a sculptor. Yeah. And so she was an artist. She was an amazing artist. But when you're trying to raise a family, there's not a lot of jobs that you can do art with, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so when my dad lost his job, my mom actually, to make ends meet, she got a job working at Costco and selling hot dogs. She was a hot dog vendor. And so...
Ain't nothing wrong with Costco.
No. And I love a Costco hot dog, but my point is that she wasn't afraid during some hard times when my dad had been struggling in WWE. My mom wasn't afraid to roll up her sleeves and get to work and to protect her family. Yeah. And so that was I think something that she had, that grit in her from my grandfather. Yeah. And so, I like being able to share those moments because again, it's cool for people to go, hey, you see us on the outside and you see, or both of us, they have a nice house or they have a nice car, they're wearing nice clothes. And it's but everything I have, I built from the ground up. Yeah. And I love that. I wouldn't trade any of it because it's made everything so worth it. Even my first, and I've talked about this before in interviews in the past, but even my first paycheck in WWE, my first contract was for $24,000 a year.
So not even the $500 a week?
It was $500.
Well, it was $500 a week? Did I just do the math wrong?
It was $500 a week.
Yeah.
I think that math is close to being right.
Yeah, I don't know. But some people had to take off their tax for immigration purposes.
TJ's was $21,000.
I always heard that TJ was the lowest paid because he had to do this visa.
Yeah, TJ was the lowest paid, I think, in developmental.
Crazy.
But I was getting, around $500 a week, and I thought it was great. I was thrilled. I was excited. I was ecstatic. It's just it drives you. It creates a hunger inside of you where you're my favorite times, some of my favorite times ever were in developmental. Yeah. Working with Dr. Tom, working with Steve Kern, working with Dusty. Yeah. Those were some of the times of my life. I met the Bella Twins for the first time.
I remember Randy came down to OVW and he told everybody there, he was doing a match at Six Flags. And he told everybody, he didn't have much to say, but they gathered us up for his speech. He just said, make sure you're having fun because the moment you go on the road, It's still fun, but it's a very different type of fun, and it's a business.
Yeah.
So this group, you'll never forget who you trained with, that funny moment when you were watching PLEs or pay-per-views on your couch thinking about when that will be me, or when your friend got called up and you got to see it firsthand and
Yeah.
you knew how real it was. Yeah, that time period is so much fun. So
I
much fun.
loved it, and we were not making, we weren't making any money, but like I didn't give a shit at all. I loved,
Yeah. Do you know what I did with my money?
spent it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna walk you through it. I got $500 a week, and we'd film TV on Wednesday, which was, I think I also got paid Wednesday morning. Like I got a direct deposit. We'd film OVW TV on Wednesday, and then after the show, I would try to take everybody out on $500 to a establishment. You can look it up to understand what it is, called PT's in Louisville. And I would then end up with no money at the end of but it was okay.
You were always so
It was
generous.
okay. I had a house, like I had a place, and you just go to, it's not like I'm going anywhere. I'm just going to TV. And then I mentioned multiple mentions of hot dogs on this show because I would eat hot dogs from 4400 Shepherdsville Road, Danny Davis's his concession stand. I would just grab a hot dog while I was there training, which he didn't love because that was part of the concessions. But that's a big thing about what do you want to talk about. Everyone should understand. We're all about Louis Vuittons, Cadillacs, but we're also about hot dogs.
Yeah.
We're about like
Costco hot dogs,
we're
still my favorite.
We're splitting it. We're about it.